Hello and welcome to the Medusas. We are back, and last episode was quite a cliffhanger. As for those who may be tuning in live, you may have been waiting all week to find out the meaning of the cryptic and elusive revelation that was made at the last of the at the end of the last episode. But for those who maybe need a brief recap, in the last episode, Amity had accepted a scholarship to attend one of the most prestigious wizard academies in the Mantirum. You guys were going to accompany him, and you had decided that, before he left, you should probably awaken Sinjin from her meditation. And upon awakening Sinjin was possessed by some kind of spirit, energy, deific force, and revealed a cryptic rhyme. 3 that are tall, 1 that is small, 2 that are medium, 1 tall shall fall. And that is where we were going to pick up. A moment after this revelation, Sinjin kind of snaps forward and blinks her eyes and looks around, seemingly disoriented. And she kind of is like, is there something going on?
Yes. What did you just say?
I didn't say anything. I was meditating.
You don't remember?
No.
Sinjin is a conduit for their master or such. So I would assume that would be a message directly from Taik.
She looks at you guys and she's like, Taik spoke through me?
We
Indeed.
believe so.
Yes.
Well, what did they say?
Goliath's gonna die.
Pretty much.
I mean, I don't think they said anything like that at all. I didn't hear the word Goliath once.
Okay, but someone big is going to die, and
All right.
we all know that ain't me.
Fine, tall.
Yeah, tall.
Fine, tall.
You are tall. This is my point.
I mean, we don't need to go to the scholarly sources here to measure that Sinjin already had a dream that someone in our group was going to die. And the thing referred that we had small and 2 medium and the 3 tall. So obviously, if you were going to divide our group up into those things, yeah, the 3 tallest would be Areia, Bullstrong, and Varna.
So one of y'all's gonna die, and I don't like that.
Sinjin looks up at Amity and sees Amity with his bags and all of his stuff. And she's like, you are leaving? And Amity nods. And he says, I'm going to study at the academy. And Sinjin is like, I will come with you. And Amity's like, I don't think there's a place for you there. I'm sorry, my friend. And Sinjin kind of looks, you could tell Sinjin seems a little bit sad. And she nods and she's like, yes, perhaps you're right. And Amity's like, I have to go now. There's a carriage waiting for me. And he nods again. And he looks at all of you. And he looks like he's about to say something, but then he kind of stops and turns and walks out. There's some moments of silence before Sinjin stands up from her meditative seated position. And she looks at all of you and says, "Do you all still seek to find the mouth of Deepa?"
Yes.
I will go with you then. I will
Thank
help
you.
you.
I'm sorry, Sinjin.
Perhaps this is Taik's will, that Amity grow in his knowledge and his learning. Yes, this must be it. So, what do you guys do? You know that you have an opportunity to be able to travel to the capital of Oris Vechi, courtesy of Master Azorn. Is there any other preparations, or are there any other preparations that you need to handle before you go?
Well, is there anything we can do about this whole, someone dying thing? Because I feel like that's a big deal that everyone was like, ah.
Well, I
It's
have
fate.
It's fate?
I have a spell I
Can't
could
change it.
try. And also, I don't have any money, but if somewhere in this party we have like 350 gold and know where a really good diamond shop is, because I have a spell that could revivify somebody, but it costs 350 gold pieces worth of diamonds, which I don't have or don't have the money for.
I don't think even within our well, one, I'm not sure if the party can pull that kind together, as currently the person we're trying to serve doesn't seem to like to help us out too much monetarily.
I mean, I got some flat.
And well, a platinum is like 10 gold. So unless you have 30 platinum.
Hmm.
And secondary, this is another issue with the gods and these kind of forces that I seem to have trouble with sometimes, is they have these grand fates, and when the gods say something and decide something, no matter what a mortal person can do, it is almost unavoidable. So part of me thinks that now that this has been set in motion in some manner, no matter what action we may try to do to push against it, one of you will die.
I think that fate bullcrap is a bunch of garbage.
Wow.
And we can definitely do something against it. I'm not going to sit by and be like, it's fine, you'll die. Like, no, that's not happening. So,
I mean, I have something that I could try on one person today. If we had the money, I could help another person, but I don't know that there's really any way. Like, if it was Bullstrong or Rona, I could probably try to do something, but if it was me, I don't think I could. But also, I don't know that I would want to, because if it is a god thing, I follow my god, and if my god tells me to do something, I will follow them.
if he said
But I don't know
die,
about-
you'd
I
be
don't know
like,
about
yeah?
Well, I don't know about this Taik stuff, but
Yeah, I don't listen to Tai. He's
I mean, I don't even know what's going on. So we don't know what like actually is gonna happen or if it's going to happen.
Well, we know
That
someone
is-
is gonna. Someone's gonna be put in some sort of deadly situation. That I'm fairly
We're
certain.
always in deadly situations.
No, but like more deadly.
I just feel that, I don't make peace with it. I don't, this is the confusing trouble why I haven't spent a lot of my life trying to figure out the God's will and who does what and who to subscribe to, because at the end of the day, we're all just mortals on this realm, and they could wipe us all off it if they wanted to, or they could take the whole plane and tear it apart. We do our best to make things better, and that is what we are doing, trying to find these godly stones that contain just a little bit of the power that they obtain infinitely.
Point of clarification for our viewers, meta moment. Who is currently carrying the milk of Vusek?
Technically, I would be, yes.
Okay. Unmeta moment. Carry on. So do you choose to pool your resources, or is there any other interactions that you want to conduct with anyone during this final day before your travel to Orisfetchi?
Well, so how much gold do we have? I got 91 gold pieces and 1 platinum. So that's like 100, right? Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I got 100.
I have
I got
50.
like 40.
Yeah, I have 50. Right. We spent all of our
Any
money
chance
being
you got like
hospitable.
100 in there somewhere?
We spent all of our money being hospitable to strangers.
If we still had all that equipment found, we could have pawned it, but unfortunately that had to go to someone's tribe.
Well, what do we have that we can sell? We got. Well, I got squat. Anyone got anything? Like slightly valuable?
I don't. I have a potion of water breathing, but that's like what we need if we're gonna go underwater diving on the coast.
What if we spent the day as street performers?
Yes.
See? I got it.
Do any of us have anything that we're actually talented at?
Hey man, you have no idea. You know your guys' performance that didn't happen?
That's what I'm asking, Magnus. I don't have any
my bad.
idea. What are you talented at?
Oh, what am I not?
Yeah, like
well,
if you were gonna go on the street corner and perform for an entire day, what would you do?
let's see what I have. I can.
Can you juggle?
Yeah, you know what? Why not? I'll juggle.
Because you have a high wisdom, I will remind you that some of the most amazing things you've ever seen in your life in the walled city of Zidmare, in the Mantirum, have been incredible public performances of like magic shows that use like cantrips and musical performances that are enhanced through magic. Like basically, even the lamest street performers that you've seen in this city have had some kind of like enhancement or magic added to their performance.
Okay.
Yeah, so unless we can come up with something super cool, I don't know that that's gonna work.
All right.
Because this is kind of a city where like everybody is super magically cool. So unless we can do something like godlike, we probably won't stand out much.
But
As Areia says that, Magnus, it occurs to you, as she speaks of super magically cool people, it occurs to you that you guys have met quite a few extremely wealthy nobles in the past several days in your time in the Mantirum. Just some thoughts on that matter.
Some nobles? Why? What can we do with nobles? Ask them for money? I feel like ugh.
We could go back to, hold on.
Lady Arlba?
Yes, we could go
Master
back to Lady
Azorn?
Arlba and grovel at her feet and ask her for spare change.
Yeah, we can do crowdfunding. We can make like just a post on the wall and say like, give nothing less than silver pieces to this address. I think people will listen.
I do have some pretty nice cantrips, though.
Yes, but you'd need quite a wealthy patron of your services to get us to what we need in the time that we need it.
Well, I got 100. You two got like 100. That's 200. Like we need what, like 350, right? Does it mean 150?
Yeah. We could take out a loan at the bank.
And then just not return, go away.
But even if, I don't know, like I can still cast a spell. When St. John was talking about one of us dying, was it like today that they had this vision or just some random point in the future?
There was no indication of time period.
But it was at night, wasn't it? St. John said that it was nightfall. Okay.
Yes.
So remind me, and like tonight when nightfall hits, I can cast Death Ward on Bullstrong, and then we could just keep an eye out on Varna. And then
do you remember the description of the vision? Do any of you?
Yes, I wrote it down. Hold on. I wrote it down.
I just wrote one tall shall fall in all caps and circled it.
It was St. John just said it was like a moonlit path with a bunch of figures in like cloaks and stuff. And that there was death and somebody died.
Right. But the description was a moonlit path. It seemed to indicate, the dream seemed to indicate that it was outdoors.
Guys,
during some kind of travel.
What if we just don't go outside?
Okay, so each one of you gets to choose one thing to do in the next 60 seconds that will finish out this day. And then I will assume that you will go to sleep at night in your comfortable inn before getting up in the morning to get on the carriage to go to Orisveci. So, Bullstrong, what do you choose to do for the rest of this day?
You know, that's a great question. Where are the horses?
In the stables.
Because I kind of want to use Thunderdoom McTony. He seems depressed.
You certainly could ride along with the carriage. You don't have to ride in the carriage. If you wanted to ride with Tony, Varna and Storm could ride in the carriage with the rest of the group. Or any number of you, if you chose not to ride in the carriage, could just ride on your horses along with the carriage. But you feel like the certainty of safety riding in the carriage of a high noble would provide you with a great deal of safety. So you want to go visit your horse and make sure that he's okay, and you
haven't seen them in a hot minute.
He seems very eager to see you.
That's good.
And he snorts and like stomps his hooves and stuff, and then he calms down after a little while, and you just kind of hang out with him and talk with him.
I'm just gonna kind of vibe with the bird, the horse, and the egg. Just have like a little nature moment.
Yeah. At a certain point while you're hanging out down there, Varna and Storm come down, and they kind of hang out with you in the barn. Just because.
I mean, that's cool.
All right, Capella, what do you do?
I'm gonna spend some of the rest of my time. One with since I felt a little bad that I've been sticking stone guard duty on my hedgehog. I'm gonna spend some time trying to docile him and sort of get used to it. So I'm sort of playing with the hedgehog and sort of messing with the stone.
Okay, you do. Anything in particular that you want to do or think about or try while you're becoming more attuned to the stone?
I guess just some fidgeting of it. I know, just like holding it in that way that, like holding it in my palms like that and sort of just thinking about the water and the coast and those kind of things.
Okay. At a certain point, it begins raining outside. Just a light, misty rain.
Pretty cool.
It wasn't raining in the vision, was it?
No.
Nice.
And it's also daytime. But this just seems to kind of, like the sky was very clear, sunny day. And then just, it seems like the clouds kind of, like the sky kind of became a little bit overcast. And then there was just a little light rain, just a misting for about 15 minutes. And then it kind of blew through.
Not a bad omen, is it?
Might just be a neat coincidence either way.
I mean, we're touching the water stone.
Okay, so Magnus, what do you do?
I feel like my performing skills aren't gonna do the job, but I also really don't want to beg Lady Arlba. She's such a nice lady. I'm gonna feel like garbage if I go up to her and be like, hey, can I have money for free? Thanks.
Remember that there were a few other nobles that you guys met. I just happened to mention Lady Arlba or Master Azorn, but you guys did meet a few other nobles.
Master Azorn I'm not going to go to because I'm angry and I don't want to ask him for anything. I'll try Lady Arlba and see what she says.
Okay. In short, without extensively role-playing this out, you kind of go to Lady Arlba's home. She receives you. You know, she's pleased to see you. She asks about how you're doing and, you know, how the rest of your group is doing. And in the course of just kind of small talk, she happens to mention that she heard about Amity being accepted into Aram's fellowship program and that he was going to be attending the academy. She said that's a great honor. And she truly believes that you know, is a wonderful thing for Amity. Do you mention that you guys are going to be going to the capital?
Yeah.
Do you mention anything else related to that? Like how you're going?
Sure.
Or through whose hospitality?
Yeah, I'll mention that.
So she's like very impressed, like noticeably impressed that you guys have been offered this incredible hospitality by Master Azorn. And she asks you if he has provided you with appropriate clothes for the capital.
No, I don't think so.
She's like, oh, well, please, by all means, allow me to make a recommendation. She's like, the fashions in the capital are very crucial.
Oh.
In fact, if you make a faux pas, you may be misconstrued as a sort of uncivilized person.
Oh.
we here in Zidmare are a little bit more forgiving when it comes to outsiders because we tend to have more interactions because of our location being a tradeway between Parmia and Kabul Kailish. However, the capital is often perceived as somewhat isolated, if you will, and also very representative of the social caste system of the Mantirum. So I would be failing as a noble if you did not have the appropriate clothing. So she's like, allow me to honor your departure with a gift. She gets like a sheaf of paper and some ink, and she begins writing out this scroll. A few minutes later, she finishes it. She seals it, wax seal, with her signet. And then she opens up the drawer of her desk and pulls out like several pouches and kind of like weighs them out. And she's like, yes, this should be sufficient. And she says, this is a missive for a very, very reputable tailor. He is among the finest tailors and typically only serves the upper noble houses. But it so happens that I have a cousin who is married into his family. Now, this missive will provide you with all of the necessary clothing. This additional coin will ensure that you have the appropriate wealth to properly represent yourselves as guests of Master Azorn when you arrive at the capital. And then she gives you like a kiss on each cheek, and she's like, I wish you all of the best, and I hope that your experiences in our incredible, magical, amazing capital are everything that you desire.
How kind of you. Thank you very much.
She nods, and she stands and backs up a few feet and bows again, and you do the same thing, and her steward leads you out the door. As you're walking through the streets, you notice that the scroll that she has sealed has an address written on the outside of it. The velvet bag that she gave you is full of platinum. Now, being that you're a rogue, I'm going to say that you're pretty good at estimating value. There are 200 platinum pieces in this bag.
What? I love that.
So you return to the inn, I assume?
Yes.
And explain this to everyone?
Yes.
In short order, the group of you go to, including Varna and the child, go to this tailor. You give the tailor the missive. He reads it, and he's like, at once. And he like snaps his fingers, and several servants come out and begin taking your measurements, and they jot everything down. They measure all of you for measurements, and they kind of like study your facial features and your hair, and they go up to you and they're like, may I see your eyes? And they like open your eyes and like study your eye color, and they're like, yes. And the whole time, like the assistants are taking notes, right? And the tailor's like, I will have an appropriate level of attire for you in the morning.
Thank you.
We will work through the night to ensure that this order is made proper. And my only request to you, please, if you please, is that if anyone in the capital asks who made your clothing, that you tell them it was Merrick, the tailor.
Why, of course. Thank you.
He like winks 3 times. Yes, Merrick, the tailor. So you guys leave, you go back to the inn. You have 500 platinum pieces. Wait, did I say 500? I said 200. Slow down, Bill.
No.
That was close. We almost got
200 platinum pieces. So it's evening. Many shops are still open. What do you do? Do you go to a jeweler to buy diamonds?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's do it.
Yes.
Can we go to
Okay.
just one jeweler and get that many diamonds? Isn't that like really, really sus?
How many diamonds are we buying?
I'm only getting
350 gold worth. That
Yeah,
sounds like a lot.
see,
I don't know. I don't buy
That's
diamonds.
one. That's one diamond.
I just want to get 2 diamonds, each worth 350, so that I can cast a spell twice if I need to.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, Samantha.
Is it gonna like disappear? That's so wasteful.
This is why I don't like magic.
So
Gone.
you are able to expend. So what would that be? 700 gold would be 70 of your platinum. So you get these diamonds, you get a cluster of diamonds, and you still have a ridiculous 130 platinum left over. Is that right? Yes.
Yes.
Math. So, Areia, while Magnus was doing all that, what are you doing in that short bit of downtime?
I was going to, when the night falls, like right when the sun goes down, I was going to cast Death Ward on Bullstrong for like the 8-hour period of the night.
Make a, before you cast that, make an insight check.
What if it doesn't happen tonight?
19.
You there's something about, as you're thinking about this and you're like considering the casting of this spell, there's something about your study of Ayuk and the strength of the earth that kind of appears in your thoughts. And when you think of your fellow Goliaths, it occurs to you that there is something else. And it's just like this thought that keeps kind of popping up in your head. You can't quite lock it down. Or maybe you can. But you just start to think about how many Goliaths are in your party. You ask yourself this question over and over. How many Goliaths are in your party? And you think to yourself, how many are female? How many are male? And there's something about that balance, that there are 4 Goliaths, 2 male, 2 female, that is strong. There's something about that balance, that number, that is strong. There's something about it that in your study of Ayuk, you think about how Ayuk supports the world. You think about how Ayuk is part of something else, though. He is part of the elements. And when you think of the elements, you begin to think of how many elemental deities are there. And in thinking about this, your heart says 4 with utter certainty. Your faith says 4. And yet in the back of your mind, you can't help but wonder if Taik is real, that there would be a contradiction to your very belief system. That the existence of Taik, or the acknowledgement of the possible existence of Taik, could threaten how you've perceived that natural balance and order. Now, with that in mind, how does Areia feel about this understanding? Speak.
I don't know. I feel like she's nervous, but she is like comforted, I guess, in the fact that like she believes that her God will do what's right for her. But she worries about the other Goliaths.
I really
Okay,
like
fair
your
enough.
sister's on this too. I can hear it from me.
What?
Okay, fair enough. So, fast forward, you guys go to the tailors, you get measured, you go buy diamonds. That evening, if you so choose, you can cast Death Ward on Bullstrong. Okay. All right. Night falls. You guys have had a very busy couple days preparing for your trip to the capital city of Orisvechi, and you go to sleep. And you have another great night of sleep in the luxurious inn, the beds, their linens, the pillows, the comforters. You think about how for so long you traveled on the road covered in dirt, sleeping on the ground, waking up with twigs and bugs in your hair. But for this past week, you've lived like kings by comparison. And in the morning, you awaken, you pack up all your stuff, you go to the stables, you get your horses, and you ride as instructed to the eastern gate of the town, of the city, where you see Master Azorn's steward waiting for you, and you see a carriage. Now, to call this a carriage is an enormous understatement. You have seen carriages. You've seen carriages with royalty. You saw the carriage of the princess of Kabul Kailish. But this is no mere carriage. This is the size of the largest trade wagon that you've ever seen, but with the design, decor, and upholstering of the most noble carriage. It has 8 wheels. It is pulled by 6 strong horses. It has 2 drivers up front. It has a footman who literally his only job is to hold a bar and ride along the side. And it has 2 men in back. They are not armed. They're just wearing robes. But you get the sense that maybe they are armed with something called magic. You're not sure. Master Azorn's steward sees all of you and greets you. And he kind of like looks at your horses, and in particular, he looks at Bullstrong's enormous stallion. And he's like, I apologize. I was not aware that you intended to bring your own steeds. He's like, I could have some servants tow them up and they could follow, unless you preferred to ride. And he looks at Bullstrong.
It feels not that safe. But what is is it the footman that rides along the side?
Yes, we could very easily have your horses follow behind the carriage. And he gestures to this strong wooden peg that's mounted on the back. And there's like a length of rope coiled around it.
Okay. If Tiny is safe, then I guess he can ride along.
Certainly. So he gestures, and one of the 2 people in the back looks at the rope and, like, using mage hand, basically lifts it up and in short order creates like a train. So now all of your steeds are following behind the carriage. The footman on the side opens the carriage door, and a set of stairs folds out magically. You guys ascend the stairs into this upholstered carriage. which has an enormous amount of upholstered seating, and it's extremely comfortable. There are bottles of wine and goblets, crystal goblets for your drinking pleasure. There are baskets of food, fresh baked bread, like sausages and cold cuts, cheese, like wedges of cheese, fruit, all sorts of good stuff. So you guys all get in the carriage. As St. John is getting into the carriage, you notice she stops and like looks behind her for a moment, and then like pauses, and then she gets up into the carriage with you.
That's weird.
That's not good.
And she
Maybe
doesn't say
she's just
anything.
sad and looking for amity.
Well, do you say that to her?
Sure.
She's like, no, I am sad, but Amity left yesterday. I just thought that I saw something, but I don't think it was anything.
No.
And she looks at Capella for a moment. She's like, did you see anything? Never mind. It must have just been a reflection. And she sits down. So once you guys are all in, the footman taps twice, and you feel the carriage begin to move. It is a incredibly smooth ride. Unlike many wagons that you've traveled in, there's not like a lot of bouncing up and down. It's just an incredibly smooth ride. You travel for an entire day. You stop in a small village, and when you get out of the carriage, you see the servants attending to the horses and the carriage. The footman leads you into an inn. It is a humble inn, but still far and above the standards of most of the inns that you would see in a small village. You guys walk into this inn, and it is absolutely empty, other than the people who work there. The host greets you and like leads you to rooms, opens the rooms for you and allows you to inspect them. Each one of you has your own room. It's very comfortable. You are fed dinner and offered the opportunity to bathe, so on and so forth. And night falls, you go to sleep. Next morning you wake up, you get back in the carriage, you travel some more. This continues. Now, if there's anything specific that you want to do, say, interact with, study, research, or whatever, you have 3 days of this travel at your relatively moderate, not in a big hurry kind of pace. So if you have something that you wanted to do, now is the time to explain what you're doing during this travel time. So this time I'll go in reverse order. Areia, what are you doing during this time?
Well, every night I'm casting Death Ward. I'm keeping my eye out on the 3 Goliaths. And then I'm just, as much as possible, I'm meditating and trying to connect with Ayuk and find out if there's anything that he has to say to me.
Okay, so here are the results. I'm going to have you make a roll. And again, this is going to be an insight roll. So make a roll for the first travel day.
11.
Okay. You contemplate a lot of things, but you don't really have any flashes of introspection or revelations. You do feel like, again, your faith for so long has been rooted in the strength, the very roots of Ayuk, the strength of Earth, the foundation, and your understanding of the connection between Ayuk and Vem and Deepa. and Vusek. But that persistent little questioning, that little seed of doubt concerning Taik still seems to kind of insinuate itself into your thoughts from time to time. All right, make a roll for the second day.
Okay. And on the third night, could I actually try to do the same thing but with Taik instead of Ayuk?
Yes.
That's a 23.
After the second day of contemplation, something occurs to you. It occurs to you that in your understanding, that the first pillar of the elements, being the earth pillar, being the one that drives you to your understanding of the connection between all the other things, that it's not a coincidence that Ayuk is your god, because you see Ayuk as the first pillar and the first connection between the elemental divinities. And following that, Vusek, the water goddess. Following that, Deepa, the fire god. And last, Vem, the goddess of wind. And upon your contemplations of these principles, you remember having seen the sign of Taik demonstrated as this structure being removed, and instead, not this, which makes this symbol, but the emptiness within it. And you kind of go into this prayer ritual where you're venerating and saying prayers to Ayuk, and then to Vusek, and then to Deepa, and then to Vem. And you break through on the third day, and as you're looking through, kind of like, you know, when you're like looking out in the distance and you kind of zone out and your eyes lose focus, as you're in this prayer ritual and you're contemplating Taik, for the slightest moment, out of the curtain, just there's a crack of the window of the carriage that's like where the curtain's not covering it, and it's evening of the third day of travel, in the night sky, illuminated by the moon and the stars, for ever so slight of a moment, you see like a shimmering in the night sky, a shimmering of color in the space, like a purple, soft purple kind of glow, and then it fades. Okay, Capella, what are you doing during your days of travel?
Can I do one thing the first day? And
Sure. Yep.
day I want to try to talk to the noble dude that we're traveling with. Is he like in the cart with us? Or is
Master Azorn is not traveling with you. He'll be meeting you in the capital because he had some business to attend to.
All right, that makes sense.
You know, the traveling, the servants traveling with you, all seem to be wizards of different levels, perhaps even capable of communicating over great distances.
So they could still ask, because I just wanted to try to inquire in a polite way if his interest was in Amity and his heritage, why a noble of his level would still be traveling with and helping someone of our level.
So when you think about this, you, without even really needing to reach out discussion-wise, you remember that there is a social custom of hospitality, to the extent that the higher up the caste system you go, the more the obligation exists for the nobility to provide hospitality. And you feel like that understanding that you've acquired in this last week or so of being in the Mantirum leads you to believe that the reason why someone like Master Azorn would provide you with this assistance is the same reason why Lady Arlba would give you, you know, amazing clothing and money, or why the tailor, Merrick, wanted to make sure that you told people who designed your clothing, and that it's all about that social structure.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
And you feel like this same principle probably applies to the reason why somebody like Aram, a distinguished professor at a prestigious magic academy, would be willing to sponsor somebody like Amity as his like protege.
Yes, that makes sense. So then, for the rest of the time, I just wanted to, wanted to try to, because the last time I was kind of trying to interact with the stone and think about, what's her name? Busey.
Yes.
It was kind of an interesting coincidence. So I want to try to the best of my ability, as not being a very religious person, to commune and continue with that, playing with the signs and sort of trying to think deeper about not just water, but, you know, for my fighter brain, try to think about like the pure whiteness of the rushing waves and like the fluidity of the rivers and the rain and things like that.
What is your highest attribute?
Like the strength, dex, con, that?
Yeah.
My highest attribute is strength.
And what is that?
15.
Ooh. Okay. In the course of an entire day of this kind of meditative attunement, you begin to learn some things. First of all, you begin to understand that the milk of Vusek is somehow sentient, like it can hear you. Now, it hasn't spoken to you directly, but it can hear you. And as you kind of mentally ask questions, some of those questions are revealed to you through like daydreams, basically. Not like a vision where you're possessed, like what you guys saw with like Sinjin, but more just like you're you know, meditating about it, and like a funny little story or like a picture or a scene will appear in your mind, right? In one of these daydreams, you picture yourself fighting in combat. And you picture yourself on your horse with your lance, rushing in to attack, and then turning around and backing away, and then rushing back in, and then turning around and backing away, and then rushing back in. And you see this pattern in your attack form. And it mirrors the ebb and flow of the tides of the ocean. The tides rushing in, crashing hard against the shore, and then pulling back, and then rushing in again. And in another one of these daydreams, you see yourself fighting in combat with a sword and a shield, and you see yourself like attacking and then backing away and defending, and then attacking and then backing away and defending, and kind of moving forward and then back. You see your style, you begin to understand your fighting style as being more fluid literally fluid. Like you move like water. Instead of standing in one place and just swinging and holding your shield up and swinging more, you see more movement in your combat strategy. And you begin to understand how you could apply these ideas to yourself. And then in the last daydream, you see yourself standing atop a cliff overlooking an ocean. And you see yourself holding the milk of Vusake and commanding the ocean to open. And the waves literally part. And you see just this channel, this chasm through these 100-foot tall waves. And you see the floor, the rocky, wet floor of the ocean leading up to this enormous pit. Okay, Magnus, what do you do during this time?
Most of the time, like especially like when night falls, I'm just going to keep an eye out on everything around us for anything dangerous that could, kill a Goliath. And when I'm not doing that, I'm gonna play with Bullstrong's son. That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay, excellent. The first, I'm gonna have you make 3 rolls.
3 rolls.
This is going to be 3 perception rolls.
Nice. Okay.
And I'm going to assume that when you're like keeping a lookout, that it occasionally means like you're popping your head out of the window of the carriage, or even like when the carriage occasionally stops, you kind of get out and look around and just scan the area.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
Okay. That's a nat 20, so a 30.
Okay. The first night, the carriage stops for a moment. A couple of the servants kind of like take up a guard and they're looking around, and I don't know, maybe a couple of them run off into some trees to take a leak or something. People get out and handle their business. And at a certain point, you're looking kind of back behind you guys after kind of surveying the whole area. You're looking back behind you guys and you see way off in the distance, you see like a group of people on horseback kind of going along the same road as you, but they're way off in the distance. That's all. Second night.
Okay. That's less good. That's a 14.
Okay. Nothing really to find. Nothing that anybody else wouldn't have spotted. Third.
Okay. 28.
Again, towards the end of, it's not even nighttime, towards the afternoon on the third day, there's another brief stop, and you notice again a line of travelers on horseback traveling the same route as you. This time they're closer. Like they're like 100 yards away. And they're not galloping, they're not riding fast, they're just riding at a reasonable pace.
Are they the same travelers?
Might be. Looks like about the same number at least.
Can I go up to them?
Do you tell like the steward that you want to wait, that you don't want the carriage to leave?
Yeah, I'll tell them that I see a group of travelers that looks a little bit suspicious and I want to check it out quickly.
He's like, suspicious? Zam, Moab, go with this one. And the 2 wizards that are on the back, like they stand up and kind of hop down and they begin walking down the road with you. And as they're walking, you notice each one of them like kind of pulls a wand out of their sleeves. And they're just like walking along with you. You walk about 100 yards and the group of riders is getting closer to you. And when they get about 20 feet away, they stop. Now, before that, you're able to easily see as they're approaching how many there are, what they look like. So what you see are 9 riders on horseback. All of them seem to be dressed in the same uniform, and it is a uniform you have seen before. They are wearing black cloaks with little red flowers on them. They're wearing these damask cloaks. And in fact, at the forefront of those riders, you see Lady Damasks, or who you assume to be Lady Damasks, because once again, hood, face mask, gloves, boots, everything, all in black, with the black damask with the red roses on it. And you could see, you know, purple skin, dark hair. But that's, you know, all you see is like from here above. So they ride forward, and when they get about 20 feet away, Lady Damasks like stops her horse and puts her hand up and kind of draws everyone to a halt. And she's just looking at you and the two wizards. The two wizards look up and they're like, one of them's like, Lady Damasks, pardon us. We mistook you for other travelers. And they both look at you like, and they're like, we will return to our carriage at once. And they bow. They step back 5 feet. They bow again. They step back another 5 feet and they bow again. What are you doing during this?
I'm gonna say, I'm sorry to bother you. I mistook you for some random travelers, but I wanted to ask what you all might be doing here.
Lady Damasks does not respond to you. However, a rider adjacent to her rides forward a little bit so that she's like even with Lady Damasks.
Mm-hmm.
And she speaks. And you notice, by the way, that her like face mask and everything, all the same, but she is not a purple-skinned tiefling. She's a red. And you hear her speak, and she says, my lady is on her way to Orisveci. We are accompanying her. You are the guests, are you not, of Master Azorn?
We are.
Have your travels been comfortable and safe thus far?
Thus far, yes. Thank you.
Well, may you enjoy yourselves in the capital.
Thank you. Might I ask what you're doing at Orisveci?
Lady Damasks is returning to her manor
I see.
in Orisveci.
I see. Well, good luck in your travels, and thank you for speaking with me.
Lady Damasks doesn't say anything, but she nods.
Okay, I'm gonna do the bowing thing and then walk back to the carriage.
Okay.
Okay.
You return to the carriage. You get in.
Mm-hmm.
You guys continue riding. Do you
And
tell everyone about what you experienced or saw?
Yeah.
Okay. So Magnus tells you guys about this.
Thoughts?
Bullstrong, what were you doing during the travels?
Okay, so during our travels, do we have like multiple stops where I can access some form of food?
Yeah.
Okay, because I would like to take my son on a bonding hunting trip, aiming for some sort of small game with fur.
So I'm going to say that they don't stop for a long time, but you do know the road that you're traveling along, so you find it's rather easy to keep up with them.
Okay.
So I'll say that a couple times you were able to go out and just show him some basic things like, you know, how to spot a coyote and where to find rabbits and how to snare them and stuff like that. And it's a good bonding time. You feel like he's, you know, still mentally a little bit young despite his size.
Mhm.
and he has a tender child's heart, like where he, you know, after capturing like his first rabbit, he doesn't want to skin it. And he just wants to like keep it, and he carries it around with him.
So, also, I would like to have some sort of bonding moment with my son and the dragon egg, where we kind of fall asleep together with some humming, because I would like the egg, because I know I can't talk to it. I don't speak dragon, and I'm not smart. So I'm going to try to just like motherly speak to it via vibrations, and also do that with my son.
Each night when you stop in an inn, you do this, and Varna is actually grateful. She takes an extra pillow and like smothers her own head for sound dampening, and she gets like a great night's sleep each night as you stay up frequently with your son until he kind of like falls asleep, sandwiched between you and a dragon egg. But you feel like this is coming along well, and you on several occasions you feel like the warmth of you and your son and this dragon egg in the same place. Somehow, like by the middle of the night, you're actually like hot, and you're like, oh, and you have to like throw off the covers. Which is curious, because once you do that, you know, and on occasion you kind of step out of the bed and walk around in the middle of the night a little bit and stretch out, and you cool down pretty quickly. But it's almost like every time you're snuggled up with your son and the dragon egg, it just gets warmer.
Interesting.
So the travels continued, and all of you kind of did your own various things. And during that time, you each in your own time would frequently notice that St. John seemed to be either deep in a meditative position, like in a meditative stance and like eyes closed, deep breathing, or sometimes would just be sitting in the carriage like normally, but just kind of like staring at a wall, like spaced out with her eyes open.
Can I ask her what she's thinking about?
So you ask her this on the third day, and you ask her shortly after you yourself kind of came out of a whole day of contemplation and prayer and meditation, and after you had practiced those mantras and kind of seen through the void, and you in the evening you saw that little glimmer of purple light in the sky, and she responds and says, Taik is coming. I do not know when, but I know it will be soon.
What does that mean? Like, it's gonna manifest?
Yes. Something.
Do you have an idea of who? I still can't figure out who is in danger.
I do not know. I have not had that dream or that vision since I originally had it, but I have seen lights in the sky day and night.
When she says this, do I feel like I've seen it? Because the other times before when I looked at night, I could kind of see it. Do I feel like I've seen it recently at all?
You don't. But then again, you also feel like you've spent a significant amount of time attuning a bit more to Vusake as of late.
Makes sense.
So, after your days of travel, you guys arrive at the city of Orisvechi. And its position is pretty high up on a plateau. It almost looks, imagine if a mountain had been sheared in half and a city was built atop that mountain. So even before you get there, miles away, you see it. You see it up above the tree line as you're traveling. You see it in the distance. And as you get closer, it becomes more, you become more aware of the fact that this is a massive metropolis of a city. Much bigger than Zidmer, which is where you just were. And you wonder if it might not even be bigger than Kabul Kailash's capital of Poitex Shahar. The carriage ascends the road that leads east and arrives at the kind of peak of the ascent, and it hits that plateau, and you travel a few hundred yards towards the city. What you find interesting about Orisvechi is that there is not a massive wall. Unlike Zidmer, which is like a fortified walled city, this is not a walled city. In fact, when you arrive at the gate, it's not a gate. It is a ornate, twisted metal archway that is 20 feet tall and 40 feet wide. It's this huge arch. And it looks like somehow impossibly like iron, rods of iron had been twisted into these elaborate knots and patterns to form this arch. Almost like how vines grow, except the vines are made of iron. And as you approach this arch, you see, as you get closer, that there's little sparks of electricity popping off of it at random intervals. And as you get even closer, you can hear the electrical hum around this arc. The carriage stops just short of the arc, and you guys kind of like are like, what's going on? You know, you're like looking out the window as you were getting closer. And the footman opens the door to the carriage, and he's like, my friends, please come out. We must present ourselves. So do you guys all get out? So he leads you and all the other servants in front of the carriage, and now you're about 10 feet away, and you're close enough to this thing where you can see the electrical sparks around it. You can hear the hum of electricity around it, and you could even smell like the ozone in the air. And you see the steward reach into his shirt, and he pulls out a medallion, and the medallion has the crest of House Azorn. And he holds the medallion up, and you notice that for a moment, the sparkling and the sound, the hum, gets louder and more intense, and then it stops suddenly, as if it was just turned off. And he nods, and he's like, He's like, welcome to Orisvechi. He leads you back to the carriage. The carriage proceeds through the arch with all the horses in tow. And the curtains to the carriage are open. And as you proceed through the streets of this city, you feel a sense that this is an old city, ancient city. You see, many of the buildings are made of stone, but almost every single building has a very similar kind of wrought iron architectural feature to it. Almost every lot upon which a building sits has a wrought iron gate and kind of wrought iron fence around the lot. Most of the buildings have like kind of front entrance ways where there's like wrought iron columns and decorative features around the buildings and integrated into the stonework. And it looks very different from anything that you've seen. You proceed through this massive city, and there are buildings of all sizes. There are some that are, you know, simple 1-story, 2-story buildings, but you pass by a few buildings that are 6-story tall, massive complexes with multiple towers and turrets. And the other thing that you notice immediately is that the people that are out on the street are all dressed in like finery that is very different from any other country you've been in. There are some similarities to what you saw in Zidmere, but you begin to see why Lady Arlba had mentioned that the fashion and customs in the capital are different. The first thing you notice is that there's a lot more uniformity to the elaborate clothing that people wear. And as your carriage passes through the streets, you notice a fair amount of the social caste structure represented not only by the skin color of tieflings, but also by how they're dressed. And even the lowest, like orange and yellow tieflings are wearing amazing like silk outfits with like inlaid silver trim and gold trim and a lot of jewelry. But one thing that strikes out to you, and probably the most significant out of all of these things, is that as you pass through this city, going towards House Azorn, you do not see a single other race other than tieflings. That's all you see on the streets. And finally, after literally a half an hour of this slow carriage ride through the city, you arrive at an empty lot, surrounded by an elaborate wrought iron fence. It's empty, just grass. The footman gets out, once again, opens the carriage door for you and guides you out of the carriage. And when you are all out of the carriage, he again takes his emblem out and holds his amulet up to the wrought iron gate. And when he does, you hear a clicking sound and the gate opens. And when it opens, he walks through and he beckons for you to join him. Do you walk through?
Yep.
Okay. You walk through the gate, and the moment that you cross the threshold of the gate and you are actually on the interior of the property, you see an elaborate, architecturally impossible building appear. Much like the manner that was House Azorn's property in Zidmere, this one is like two pyramids stacked up on each other, standing up on the mirror point, like a D8. This massive D8-like building. This one seems to be made of mirrors, like silver mirrors. But there are no lines or seams that would seem to show any kind of break in the structure. And as you get closer and the steward leads you up to this massive structure that you're looking above, a shimmering portal appears and a ramp descends from the portal. And he turns to the side and he is like, "Welcome to House Azorn in the city of the most wondrous Orisfetchi." And he gestures to the ramp. Do you go up? Okay. You guys kind of go up, and you look back and you notice like the other servants have brought the rest of the carriage and the horses and all that stuff into the gate, and everybody's kind of inside the gate now. You guys ascend this shimmering ramp, and you get up to the portal. You walk through the portal, and suddenly, once again, much like his residence in Zidmere, you are inside of a building that geometrically and architecturally doesn't match what you just saw on the outside. It seems to be a very normal Euclidean kind of home. Very cozy, very nicely upholstered. And as you guys walk into this main entrance parlor, this main foyer, you see stairwells that go up in 4 different directions. And descending from one of those stairwells, you see a familiar face. Jogging down with a big smile on his face, you see Trizzle. And he's like, "My friends, you have arrived. You have come. I am so happy to see you. Trizzle is eager to show you the wonders of Orisvechi."
We're happy to see you too. Hello.
Trizzle bounds down and
everyone
he
kill us.
jumps down. He jumps down the last 5 stairs and does like a rolling flip and like springs up and throws flowers with little sparks into the air. And he smiles and he says, "Trizzle has many things to show you in the capital. It would be our humble honor."
What do you have to show us?
"Many things. Master Azorn has sent Trizzle here to be your guide through the capital and to show you the great things of Orisvechi."
Certainly seemed happy about it.
"Yes. Trizzle is happy to have his friends here to keep him company." And he looks down at little baby Storm Mountain, and he says, he reaches into a bag and he pulls out a little white flower, and then he does this like magic trick and turns the flower into a white bunny, and he hands it to Storm. And Storm like laughs and claps and holds the bunny with his other bunny, and now he's gripping 2 bunnies. And Trizzle says, "Many questions you should probably have, and Trizzle can answer them." And he looks around and he's like, "Where is the red-skinned? The one Amity?"
He had to go.
And Trizzle looks alarmed for a moment when you say that, and he looks to you. "He had to go?"
No worries. He's off studying and he's okay. But
He's not dead. He is not dead.
No worries. He's okay.
Trizzle
Oh, you
seems
thought he was
relieved.
dead.
He
Okay.
thought he was
You
dead.
scared him to death.
He is so
I'm
confused.
sorry, Trizzle. I didn't mean to scare you. He's off studying. It's a good opportunity, but he's not
I'm gonna
here. with
cry,
us.
dude.
He's like the opposite of dead.
Trizzle seems to like be holding back some tears, and he's like, "Trizzle thought that perhaps you sacrificed the red-skinned Amity to free Trizzle. It would be too cruel to do."
We do want to free you, but we wouldn't sacrifice Amity. He's our friend.
Yeah, you're not worth that much. I mean, gee.
Bullstrong.
Jesus Christ. No, that's not it.
He thought he was dead. He's convinced we are sacrificial evil savages.
Trizzle says, "Tonight there will be a party in honor of Master Azorn's guests. Trizzle will be
Party?
delighted. Trizzle will be delighted to help you prepare. Come.
What kind of party, Trizzle?
Trizzle will give you a tour of the manor. Come, follow Trizzle." And he goes up one of the stairwells and he beckons to you.
Okay.
And over the course of the next 2 hours, you get a complete tour of all of House Azorn's manor in Orisvechi. And again, somehow, impossibly, the inner amount of space seems to be more than what you saw on the outside. It seems like there are endless stairwells and multiple levels and corridors and just rooms full of things and collections and libraries and museums. and multiple dining rooms and a huge ballroom, and all these different spaces and guest bedrooms and parlors and studies. And as you're finishing up the tour, you're heading back down some of the stairwells, and Trizzle's like, Trizzle's friends must be hungry. We will have a great feast. And then
Thank you,
rest
Trizzle.
for the party tonight. So you guys go down to the dining room. And by the way, at no point in time have you seen any other servants. Like in the manor in Zidmere, there were other servants. There are no servants here. The only person you've seen inside this residence is Trizzle. So you go into the dining room, and Trizzle's like, what would my friends like to eat?
I'm fine with anything. You guys?
You sell half of the sheep.
Trizzle can make arrangements for goat. Or if you'd like seafood, there are many lobsters and fish that Trizzle can bring forth from the kitchens.
I mean, never eaten shellfish. I could be allergic. I could try it. Let's find out.
Trizzle will bring forth a cornucopia of things for tasting and sampling to give you a preview of tonight's menu. And you see Trizzle run off into this room, and literally 10 seconds later, he comes back out with a large tray, like almost the size of a small table that has food on it. And he runs over to the table and he sets the tray down on the middle of the table, and there's just this buffet of food. And he's like, please, friends, eat. Trizzle is happy to have you here. And he begins sharing all these different foods with you and begins telling you about all the amazing sights that you'll see and how he's so excited to be able to serve as your personal guide and servant through Oris Fetchy. And you guys eat a great meal, and you feel happy about it, and you feel very comfortable in the manor of House Azor. And that is where we'll end this episode of the Medusas. Tune in next week to find out what happens when there's a party in the capital city of the Mantirum. Thank you, as always. Thank you so much to patrons and subscribers for all of your support. We love you. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy and safe. And we'll see you next week. Peace out.